Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. It's 7 p.m., 7:13 p.m. Central. We're all still alive barely. We're all getting hit by the interstellar rays and bracing for the nuclear holocaust. But tonight, Wham's here with us tonight, and she's representing, as always, Wham. And me and Christina were just listening to Everybody Wang Chung tonight. So that's what we're going for. We got Andrew Colvin here with us tonight, the Mothman photographer. I know he's been on the show so many times I've lost count. A lot. And it's always great to have him here. And the title of tonight's show, Secret to Mothman Revealed. And of course, there's a lot of other stuff to get into, but that's the gist of it. Good to have you here, Andy. What are you up to?
Well, I had to mute it there because I'm copying out my notes. So
okay,
you're probably hearing a noise. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. And but basically, I don't know. We've been doing a lot of different. We had a guy on Dennis Carroll last Friday that was pretty weird about he's like a minister, former policeman. Definitely got into spiritual warfare. But one of the weird things that's happened the last few shows, and luckily it hasn't this time, we would have an American Bulldog act crazy before shows for no reason, like just breathing heavy and stuff like that. And I don't know if it was related, but there was not a storm. It was just very abnormal for the last few shows. And I'm not going to say I know what it is. I don't, but it was abnormal behavior that was freaky. So I even said like a prayer tonight and gave her a milk bone. So far, so good. But she keeps trying to break it. She's not doing it tonight, but last show she was just going nuts. But me and Christina have been doing the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch and all that stuff. And of course, I always have discernment when I watch that stuff. But those shows, I mean, that's pure just spooks wide out in the open doing theatrics. Or I think there's some truth to some of it, but it's the craziest damn thing I've ever seen. I don't know. It just seems like they're really up to something and they're using TV to do it on a big level. That's creepy. I mean, some of the episodes of that, I mean, I think there's something to it with the Navajo police guy. They go to an area that's supposedly infected by skinwalkers and the family moved and he goes there and the lady said they finally left and then the Navajo Nation gives them a new house. Like there's weird stuff. And then of course the Chris Bledsoe helmet, like from the X-Men and him summoning UFOs with CIA spooks and Colonel John Alexander around him. That's insane. And I'm not saying it's all true. I don't trust it. It reminds me of a John Carpenter movie. I can't even still get through UFO of God. I started like the first chapter and it's just, I don't know. It just creeps me out. I think there's something about the phenomenon because I've seen some phenomenon like that and interacted with it, but not in a long time. But it just seems like the spookery is definitely up when it comes to that show and everything. So, well, what do you think about? You've watched some of those episodes, haven't you, Andy? What do you think about it? You think it's complete BS?
Skinwalker?
Yeah, well, the shows beyond the Skinwalker Ranch, where they go to the different ranches and say the same crap's happening there as Skinwalker Ranch, and every ranch they go to, it's the same similar phenomenon.
Oh boy, man. I'll tell you, at times I've gotten so, I don't know, focused or paranoid that I think that Bigfoot was really just invented to cover up Mothman. And this other stuff is too. To me, because I experienced it, to me it's real. It's very important. And the spooks are trying to cover it up any way they can. Of course, they're doing other things too, right? Not just that. But the only person who's been well, there's been a few, but John Keel was just harassed his whole career. And then they started on me because I was his whatever friend. And the answer is certainly in his research if you want to go further with the whole thing. But other than that, it's just a bunch of theater, Patreon stuff, and non-research, entertainment, dumbass researchers that I really stopped paying attention. I'm kind of not interested. in any of that, anything that they're doing, anything that's on TV. The TV thing is really where the control comes in. Now, what do you think's going on overall? Is that the question? Because that
Yeah, just some of the.
it does get to the what's the Mothman secret. So I've already said I think it's real. I think the prophecies were real. My 911 thing happened. That's what convinced me that it was real, and I've continued ever since because of that. And no one's going to change my mind about that. So whether or not people come along and start looking at the stuff I found out and other people like in this kind of weird corner that I'm in with, then they're not going to know. But there's, as I've said a lot for a long time, Mothman's appearances and the people he showed himself to and stuff seem to point toward certain companies where he was seen that were working with the Nazis during the war, and he was warning us about the secret nuclear work being done there, because that's something that could destroy the world. And if it's a Garuda, then the Garuda would do that kind of thing. And there's, of course, a whole lot of other stuff that goes on personally if you're involved in that and you're following the Garuda teachings and stuff, which I try to do. It's like, it's so incredible and important and useful and wonderful. And I'm just sad that people can't grasp what's going on. But let's say the Mothman was I think there's an alternate to the Nazi thing. The alternate is, if he's a Garuda, he's been appearing there because of the rebirths of llamas from Tibet into West Virginia, which I've heard many times from different sources. There it is. The Garuda is there to protect those young kids. Maybe I'm one of them. I've been told that. I don't buy anything in particular. I'm very agnostic. But helping those kids retain their creativity as they go along in life. That's what the Garuda does. It stabilizes states of positivity. So we were being studied by NASA. This is something I recently found out. Our grade school wasn't being studied necessarily by Princeton. It was the NASA doing it. And of course they have connections to Princeton. So, and then I found out what the study discovered, or the results were. The results were never released. We never knew about it. We never knew why they were asking us what they were asking. But the study was about whether or not kids can retain their genius qualities. All kids have genius qualities at age 5. 95% of them do. By the time they're 20, through the school system, they're only 5% or maybe 1%. I think it's 1%. Still retain the creative genius that they had when they were 5. So that's what would have happened to me. But Mothman was there, gave me this whole set of unusual experiences, opened my mind to all kinds of things. In essence, gave me skills and protection to move forward and use, the powers, I guess you could say, that are there for good, right? So now, if the Nazis had a 100-year plan to take over America, which they supposedly did, we're about 20 years out from the end of that. So I think, and here I'm referencing the queen of conspiracy, Mae Brussel. All you ladies out there should listen to Mae Brussel. I know it's hard to get the tapes, but ask around and maybe ask me. I can help. There's like 800 or 900 shows of an hour. She tracked all these Nazis because she lost family in Auschwitz. So her whole life was devoted, and she was a wealthy woman and didn't have to do any of that. She could have just lived a nice life, but devoted it to going after these ex-Nazis, and then they murdered people in her family and probably murdered her. It's a great story. She's a real hero. So she was saying that you got that 100-year plan, and all the things that go into that. She said that if you look at the very beginning of Nazism, it was a form of Satanism. I know there's a lot of witches out there on the listening, and I'm not making any comments about white witches or anything like that. This is pure dark worship of evil, right? That the Nazis are into. And so that's literally, a lot of serial killers get into that, and then they end up killing people after that. It's a documented thing. So what you see now in the field is this big rise in occultism. And so I'm not going to broad brush and say it's all bad at all. But there are some bad actors in there, and they are the spooks, and they're preparing us for when Trump or someone after Trump gets in again. And they're going to suddenly become, how when Trump got elected, did you notice that a lot of the cryptozoologists got real conservative all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they stopped talking. They never talked about politics anyway. But any day when there was an opportunity to say, I stand against bigotry or racism, sexism, they don't do it. They never say a thing. And in the background, you've got the major, who I call the major. I'm not going to use his name. Offering and promoting white supremacist writers like Jim Brandon, right? And then trying to talk his way out of it when he gets caught promoting right-wing stuff. And they've been doing this all along. All the people in the major's camp are suspiciously apolitical until a key moment, and then they all fall in line. And it's an attempt to really create a voting bloc also. That was what Roger Stone was trying to do. Use the paranormal to create a voting bloc for Trump. So that's one reason they have all the occult stuff. And Ancient Aliens really kind of plays into that too. And Ancient Aliens came out exactly when people were really clamoring for something to be done about the government's involvement in alien abduction. And I was actually there, and when Bud Hopkins died, I was there for his death. I had to go on Coast to Coast, I think, and talk about Bud Hopkins dying. And they had already been blaming him for all the misdeeds of abduction. So they dumped it all on Bud, started Ancient Aliens, and then got everybody distracted with that. And so that whole thing about mind control, which comes from the Nazis, was imported to the U.S. Mengele was a U.S. citizen. He was a CIA operative. If you listen to May, it'll blow your mind. These are all things that happened back when we were kids and younger, didn't pay attention, didn't really know what was going on. You start looking at Kissinger and Nixon, Kissinger, Reagan. The different scandals that came out in the 80s were incredible, involving the Vatican and these companies they had set up around the world to kill people. They had assassination teams and the whole deal. It all got successfully covered up. And nowadays, it just seems like it's going to be impossible to make a dent. I don't think people realize how much big money is behind this. And because it's going to be corporate rule is what it's going to be. If Trump or somebody gets in, declares whatever, authoritarian, whatever, it's going to be a corporate rule, because they're the ones all along. If you follow the Nazi flight capital, it went into many big American companies, and they cannot be counted on, including the New York Times. So New York Times has been printing their paper by a company. They entered into a joint venture with a timber company to make their paper. Timber company was funded by Nazi flight capital in Canada. This is stuff you would have to go back. May she subscribed to over 24 newspapers every day, I think, cross-reference articles, because what they do is they put different things in the different articles in the different papers. So you're never going to get the full picture. And the CIA made sure to do that, to have somebody in every paper, have somebody, saying, just print that, makes it impossible to track these guys. But it was literally the same people doing a lot of things, Chappaquiddick. John F. Kennedy, RFK, MLK, on down the line. Many, many murders. And a lot of them were to get Nixon in office, if you can believe that. I mean, what a waste of human lives to get Nixon in office. So,
Yeah, it's definitely crazy.
political people right now, but maybe they are. We just don't know it.
It's definitely crazy how they control the media and information. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff lately with the Simpsons thing, not to get into that too heavily, but that's pretty damn weird. Some of the stuff that they kind of prophesize on the Simpsons. That thing that with the bridge was on there about the same.
Are you
Yeah,
kidding?
I saw a video about that yesterday. The submarine thing that happened was, it's like every damn thing is on there, and it's really creepy. It's like, either the guy's a prophet or they're feeding him this stuff on purpose to do it.
I'm still
It's
trying
weird.
to ferret out what the mix was. The mix of the boat and Trump getting that golf award. I don't know. What else happened that day? There was something big. What was it?
P. Diddy.
Yes. Yes. An Epstein level scandal. And they covered up Epstein. I mean, somehow, some way, we still really don't know what he was up to. And these are all CIA ops and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
That's definitely nuts.
We can move on, or if you've got anything to direction to take me, I'll go there.
Well, one thing I just want to say about the Skinwalker Ranch show, and we'll get on to something else. But the thing they're trying to portray in each of those shows is that there's some kind of force there that they're having contact with that shuts down their equipment, and that also is like, it's almost like I guess they're trying to blame aliens, but it's almost like a foreign enemy. And it's broadcasting a 1.6 gigahertz weird signal on every show. And they even had one show where black helicopters came out and tried to shut them down and tried to make, and the attorney general was there at the table with Bigelow Aerospace former people. And they were basically saying another section of the government was trying to shut them down. But my point with all that is it's definitely spook theatrics. Like, it's insane. I don't even watch those shows that much. There's a few like These Woods Are Haunted just for fun with Dogman crap and stuff like that. Me and Christina watch, but I'm not someone that watches these kind of shows. But those shows, they're up to something with those bastards. There's no doubt about it. It's insane.
Well, they're taking things again. Stephen King, I think, took all of his stuff from Keel's Mothman Prophecies. I'm telling you, I've seen now at least half a dozen, 6 or 8 of his movies.
Yeah.
And it's just blowing my mind that this stuff is so many details are just like, oh my God, how did they, where did they get to, it all takes place in a familiar surrounding as to what I grew up in and everything. And I just know I got to contact him and find out about it.
That would be a good one.
Mothman, but they just borrow stuff from the Mothman story all the time. And like Bledsoe, I think, and what was the first super soldier? He definitely, and he was from Kentucky. He totally cribbed my story about being at the school where the NASA people came and studied us and stuff. And one of my classmates worked for NASA. They actually recruited him. He was the kid that had the 911 precognition. Ended up working at NASA himself.
Yeah.
A real wizard. He thought he was a wizard. Said he was a wizard. He had magical abilities with animals and nature. He was an absolute computer. So anything you needed to know, it was in his brain. I don't know how that happened. Any animal, any species, any plant, anything scientific. And so my upbringing was very scientific. My dad was a scientist, chemist, electrodynamics, hydraulics, any kind of machine, engine, jet engines, all that stuff. That was my upbringing, was like science. And so I laugh when people think that I'm like far out or something, because I don't. That's really not who I am. I happen to have a couple of far out experiences, and I'm willing to use a scientific method to study the paranormal, which means you're never going to arrive at a conclusion. You're always going to be, what's the word? It's a temporary. You have a temporary idea of the solution. You keep adapting it as evidence comes in, stuff like that. That's what you should do, but nobody's doing that. It really is just entertainment at this point, the paranormal. I'm not seeing anybody doing any research, is it? There's a couple guys, but mostly their research is about outing the spooks, right? Trying to figure out their games and stuff, which is the most interesting thing about it, probably. We can learn a lot about spy behavior, manipulation, mind manipulation, all that stuff is in this field. And there are absolutely spooks involved. There's no doubt.
Was it you or someone else that shared that? It may have been someone else, but there's something about a spy saying be out of America in 2030. Was that you?
That was Bustamante, who was in he was in there for a few years, and he used the techniques on how to develop assets in business. So all the things he learned to get information out of someone, he now is a consultant, business consultant, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, it really clicked for me when he said the main thing is you want to solve somebody's problem. And once you do that, then they will share private things from their private life, which they won't share otherwise. And you see this in the major's behavior. He's always offering people film spots. He knows that all the new people coming in want to be on TV. And I've had them tell me this, and he offers them spot. Does he really provide the spot? I don't think so. But if it turns out they get on TV, he takes credit. If they don't, he'll blame them. It's perfect. And this is how he's got literally a third of the field under his direct control. If you look at them all, like all the people that are at Contact in the Desert, say, a third.
Yeah. and that spy dude, Andrew, I can't say his last name, the one we're talking about, he's the guy that's on Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. He's one of the dudes that's there.
Who?
That's him.
Who?
That guy from the spy video that you shared. Yes, he's on that show. I swear to God.
Way.
I swear to Jesus.
Well, I was wondering about him. I was thinking, okay, are you really out of the CIA? And if not, what are you doing right now?
And that's what he says on there. He's former CIA, and he was on the battlefield with the other guy, and it's him. But yeah, that's his name. Oh. Yeah, that's definitely him. Andrew Bustamante is a former covert CIA intelligence officer, decorated wartime military veteran, and that's on the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch cast history channel page. That's the dude.
Oh my God. I ran across it some other way. The AI told me. Must have.
That's crazy.
My way.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's creepy. It's giving me a little creepy, whatever the hell that means, goosebumps.
That's totally
yeah, that's spookery. But what about the Thunderbirds and the horned serpents? Does that tie into Mothman any and Garuda and that stuff, the Thunderbirds, because I've always seen like these legends where they hunt the serpents and, different myths, native and maybe India. Does that tie into it any?
Well, the symbology is very similar. The Thunderbird grabbing the serpent is very similar to the Garuda, which also grabs the serpent. It's the serpent of ignorance, right?
Okay.
And sometimes it looks feminine, but sometimes the Garuda looks feminine or androgynous. So, yeah, they're definitely similar. And I did a bunch of research on those similarities when I did the Mothman's Photographer 3. I went out to Pueblo country and talked to an expert or two, former professor of mine, who's the head of the museum at New Mexico now. He was my favorite professor when I was taking anthropology. and he had done work in New Guinea. Stephen Feld's his name. I've talked about him before, but the interesting thing with him that always stuck with me is that he said it's pretty much worldwide that people believe that dead people come back in birds, as birds, and that he had experienced this. And that's kind of Mothman-y in a way.
That's
The birds
weird.
are somehow equipped to do that better than other animals. Like, why would, is that because they've been around longer, the longest birds?
It's weird.
Yeah.
Not ruling out anything, that's for sure. But what about Indrid Cole? Did you have some stuff about him you want to share?
Well, let's see. Indrid Cole. Well, there's been some, I guess, discussion on in the Hellier group. They were trying to say that Indrid had been in Ashland, Kentucky, or lived there, and had met Terry Wrist at the Wagon Wheel Restaurant in Midway. And so I was 15 years ago, I talked to Greenfield about this because he's the one who claims he knows Terry Wrist, and that this all comes from Greenfield, right? Now you got to remember, Alan Greenfield, even though he doesn't mention it anymore, was a real close running buddy of Gray Barker's and Mosley's. And often he was on a show with me, and I'm pretty sure he had a few, right? And he started waxing about all the shenanigans that he and Barker had gotten up to, but it wasn't real specific. But you could tell that it was really had made an impact on his life, and he remembered it fondly. Somehow now Gray Barker has taken all of the rap for hoaxing and scamming. And the same people that think Barker is unreliable are the same people that are promoting Alan Greenfield. They don't even know that the two go way, way back. In fact, Greenfield wrote the introduction to the Silver Bridge, which I reprinted a few years ago because I'm in it. I'm Jimmy Jameson in the book. And the reason is my cousin, Tim, was gay and knew Gray Barker, and I don't know if they had a relationship or not. But my cousin was the guy in Charleston. If you were gay and you lived in Charleston or anywhere around there, anywhere in the state, really, you came to Charleston to party, and my cousin was kind of the the king of that, and organized the first gay pride parade in Charleston and all that kind of thing. He was a very powerful figure, a man who, when other people would have left because of fear for their lives, he did not. And he would just fight. Like if some redneck messed with him, he would just go for it. And that he won the respect of a lot of people for that. And he knew Barker from then on. And he died right around the time we kind of went out of production for New Saucerian, which I guess was 2018. Died somewhere around there, maybe a little bit before that. Before he died, he told me a bunch of stuff about Barker and the Indrid Cole story. And it turns out Tim lived in Midway. I didn't know that Tim's neighborhood, which is in Dunbar, West Virginia, east of Dunbar, was called Midway. But when I was a kid, I remember they did call it Midway. The old folks all called it Midway. If you look on the map of 1925, it calls it Mound. Exactly where Midway was called Mound. Okay, but people refer to it now as North Charleston, even though it's actually west of West Charleston. It's so confusing now that the place doesn't have an identity, and I can't even really explain it to people. But this was literally the midway between the entire Kanawha Valley, between Golly Bridge and Point Pleasant. The midway, right? That's where all the mounds were. Bird effigy mounds. They called it Mound, I guess, after the Indians Whenever they quit using the Indian name, which was probably Lowell, which means midway. And then I think the white people called it mound because there's mounds there. But the Shawnees god was called Monato, a Mon word. I've talked about that forever. The Mon words give you it's so vast. The Mon thing goes around the world, always seems to relate to bird, people, mounds, emanating from mounds. There's a spirit that is incubated in the mounds. It's called Mishimanato. Mishimanato is Shawnee, which is what I'm probably descended from the Shawnee, because I don't know how else, what else it could be. Maybe Cherokee or something, but Mishimanato almost sounds like Mothman in a weird way. But I think that the Indians did feel that these mounds were, and in fact, they lined them with mica, so they become incubators, and radio waves can't get in or out, typical ones. Psychic waves can go through mica, though. There's been experiments that shows that humans can project thoughts through mica or anything, any kind of filter, Faraday cage, right? So I think this was Mothman's home. Blaine Island is where the mounds, Indian bird effigies were. That's now a carbide plant. It's where they have the secret nuclear reactor, but that's been removed. So before they ever had one in Chicago, they had the first reactor there in Charleston. And I know this because I've talked to people that worked on it and dismantled it and stuff. And now all the wastewater tanks are gone that used to hold the nuclear waste from the reactor, which were right next to Charlie Manson's house in North Charleston. They've taken out most. I think there's only one or two left now. So they're slowly removing, because I had done Geiger counter readings there and proved that it was hot during my film video series. So somebody's listening. And I was going to say, if you have any people saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see Andy," he's always got something nice, good, weird to say. Well, it's almost like once a year I do my show, and then it gives the spooks a whole year of ideas that they can propagate. So sometimes I think I should propagate stuff that's I don't know, would backfire on them maybe, or wasn't really true or something. There's an impulse. The longer you're in this field, I think, the more you can see how someone would just want to come in and just lie about everything. And just milk people. These people, it's a perfect place for grifters. And I can just see that once you've decided it's bullshit, that you could just do like these guys do, like Jamie Masson. It's just one after another. Doesn't he have like 50 hoaxes that he's been involved in? The Major's been involved in a bunch, because he was once pals with Greenfield and Barker, but he never talks about that anymore. He was in New York with those guys, and still has a lawyer from there, still has connections there. They named a paranormal group after him, or in honor of him. It's as far as paranormal goes, there's been a huge effort, starting when 2003, when I met Keel, and we started finding out some new stuff about 11/11 and all that synchronicity, whatever, synthetic synchronicity, for instance, XX, 11/11. The Major kicked into high gear, recruited a shitload of people. I don't know if I should name names here.
Go ahead.
The popular synchro mystic website.
Just let it out. Let it out.
The Secret Sun.
I haven't seen.
I mean,
I know you're talking about.
The moment I started, the videos I was doing were coming out. Christopher Knowles appears. He's from New York. He's got Lawrence, sorry, the Major's Blessing, and goes out to Esalen for a weekend, and then suddenly he's a star. You got to go to Esalen and meet the spooks, I guess, and get approved before you can move forward. So he's still out there. So his job was just to distract everybody from whatever I was saying. So he creates a website or a group, and it's still here today. But
he's not. But he's not. That's the weird thing about it. He's like, I'm leaving, and
no,
this
he's still there. He's still there.
I thought he's hiding under another name, or he just he doesn't post.
But it's gotten so ridiculous. And I'm trying to think of an example the other day. It was just so like, come on, guys. Just drawing synchronicities from books and movies and stuff. And the one about the Cocteau Twins singer is an oracle of the future, and she's telling a future. It's not Mothman, right? Even though we can prove that people had precognitions that happened and were real, none of that matters. You need to realize that the Cocteau Twins is predicting the future here. It's even worse than that. There's even more and there's a bunch of right-wingers on there now. So all these groups tend to end up they get sucked in by the activists or whatever, extremists. The extremists on the list tend to take them over. And if you put anything intelligent up, questioning some of their crazy theories, they'll get really... Knowles himself will come in, and he likes to come out. One time I came in and I corrected something they said, and he goes, just stop. Hey, man, don't elbow in here. Like, you elbowed in on me at the very beginning. You can always tell by what people say, but it's equal to what they do because they're projecting, right? Someone who thinks that you're honing in on their territory is honing in on your territory. I've seen this time and time again. Like Ken Gerhardt, I love Ken, but he got real worked up one time because he thought he couldn't make a trip to West Virginia, and I said, well, I would help the tour he was going to do. I would, jump in and help, and he thought that I was going to take his territory. Okay, so this is a guy who's coming from Texas to my town, my hometown, and saying that I'm taking his territory. Because I lived in Gallipolis in high school. Anyway.
Territory. I mean, that's crazy. I mean,
okay, I just want to say, Ken, if you see this, you were nice to me. You were one of the few people that called me and did an interview on the phone. You were very polite and everything. But then you go, and in the book, right after you mentioned my story and stuff, you dissed John Keel. You basically said Keel's theories were like out to lunch. So I didn't appreciate being used in that way. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I've had weird Nick Redfern and Greg Bishop encounters lately. One was trying to get Nick. one was trying to get Nick on for a werewolf book where he was just acting really weird, couldn't do interviews, but it was weird. It was like, can you do it or not? Can you just give me an answer? Like, it was just like talking to the Fear and Loathing guy, on adrenochrome. Like, it was just weird. The other one, Greg Bishop, I'm in his group that I forget, radio, blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, he will not okay me to post. Like, it always says you have to post 5 times and then the mod will okay it and yada, yada, yada. And I don't really care in the long run. I could give a crap.
Well,
I wrote him and asked him, and he acted weird as hell and just didn't. Most people would just fix it, and that would be it. He didn't. He just acted weird. Like, why do you?
He would not fix our little photo thing where he gave me written permission to use this photo of Keel, but I never used it. But I used it on a demo model, and he accused me of stealing the photo, even though he didn't take the photo and it wasn't his photo.
It's just weird. If he doesn't want me here, just block me. Why not just block me? Why?
Henry O'Reilly just decided. I don't know. Do we want to accuse those guys of being spooks? I do know that Go Riley's very conservative, and his publisher is super right wing. Oh my God, that Ganja guy. What's his
Yeah,
name?
I got in a fight with him about
Gandhi
politics.
Gandhi.
I got in a fight with that
Oh my
guy
God.
about politics. This was a long ass time ago because I don't really fight about politics anymore. I'm too tired. But anyway, next thing you know, I'd heard that he said that I heard something bad about him, and that's when Adam just started ignoring me. Really weird. It was really weird behavior. Like there was no reason for it. I had interviewed him and Skylar live at a bookstore. I'd interviewed him several times, but just totally like just throw you out to the bus for no reason. And the answer was, I heard something bad about him. He told that to someone else. Just weird stuff like
It could
that.
be the workings of normals, people with they're just, I don't know, average kind of brain type people that aren't
Idiots.
or they could be spooks and playing a
Yeah.
game with you. I think if you listen to the Robert Greene, who's kind of like Bustamante in how he analyzes people, he's written several books, but the famous one was the 48 Rules of Power or Laws of Power, one of those self-help books, but he's really smart. He's really smart. And he blends a lot of interesting things together from different areas of life. And I just think he's got some really great ideas, and you can see him on YouTube anywhere you want. But his whole point, it seems, he says, is he wants to help us understand, for those of us who tend to be abused by others, for the creative types, maybe you're a little naive, but you're a good artist, and you don't want to get involved in all that politics and crap. Well, you still need to be able to defend yourself against people that are going to come after you the minute you're successful, just the minute. And they're envious, and he thinks envy is literally the number one reason why people do these things. And they're not aware of their own subconscious. They're just reacting in this super based way. And it's sad because it eats up so much time. There's so much more that human beings could be accomplishing if it weren't for people that are just there to get in your way, and they're not courageous enough to go out and take control. They're just sort of passive, and they'll listen to anything that comes down the pipe, like, oh, Jeffrey's an asshole. Oh, okay, well, I guess Jeffrey's an asshole. And then that's how they go. They never examine anything. So it's just, I just see it as a big waste.
And what is Sub Genie?
The Subgenius.
Oh, Subgenius.
I wanted to tell that story a little bit just because not something I've really talked about much. Are we going to take a break, by the way? Here,
there's not one, but if you need to,
if you need to go, then go. Take a break.
Go
Take
for
like 5 or 10
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, whatever you need to do.
Whatever you need to do.
I'm going to light one up because it is legal in Ohio now.
Okay.
Tobacco.
Yes, the tobacco should be okay. But yeah, Subgenius.
You had a question.
Subgenius. I think you wrote it Subgenie. That's why I asked Subgenie. I don't know if that was a typo.
Now, I helped start the Subgenius thing, but I'm not the guy on the paperwork, right? It's a corporation. You can't use Bob's image and all that stuff. So I was thinking maybe I could do this Church of Subgenii, right? Because genius is singular. Let's do genii. And then I can replace my face with Bob's. I can get a pipe, Xerox my face and all that. Because I'm now Pliny the Elder. That's my church name. And the reason is I'm like St. John in the wilderness to Jesus. So I'm not Jesus in Church of Subgenius. I guess Ivan Stang would be, right? So, but I'm the voice in the wilderness that pointed the way. So when I'm living in this weird place in West Virginia with all the Mothman shit and everything else, the spooks everywhere, intercult, this has ignited my imagination, right? So when I'm in junior high, I get together with this friend of mine who later worked for the in the NSA. He's like a computer expert, but he knew it. He was like, I think he made a synthesizer way before we had synthesizers, and he knew how to make phone calls all over the world and shit like that. He had spy skills. Amazing guy. So we did this skit. We did these skits that made, I don't know what they were. They were ads for late night radio, right? So my neighbor, who actually lived very close to Manson, probably knew Manson, maybe he was pretty old. He was a big DJ in the tri-state area, which is Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. Like the guy. He's my neighbor. He's got a sense of humor. He has these unfilled ad spots late at night. Well, if you guys do little 30 second, 1 minute, 2 minutes even skits, we'll just play them. And it's better if it is an ad, right? So it's better if it's a real ad. So we made these fake ads that would play instead of a real ad. And it would be, often it would be Clooney, me, talking about some crazy religious experience where I met God or Bob or Mothman or something. And the voice of God would tell me things like do nothing. So do nothing became slack. When the people in Ohio heard this, they took some of the stuff from the skits and created this church based on what I was doing without my involvement. Okay, so, but it's all there, and the tapes, some of the tapes exist, although I don't have them personally now. But yeah, it was hilarious. Charlie Manson's tattoo tips and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Ads about that were really far out, hallucinatory even, and people loved it. And this has convinced me at a young age, just do what comes. Just do what comes. Don't try to think about what people like or want. One person can go further than any group deciding anything. You try to create an artwork with 10 people, forget it. It's going to suck. So, I don't know. That's how it started. Then I became a real member in probably 82 down to Texas because they all moved to Texas. And I happened to move as well. And but they only knew me as Clooney. I don't think anybody ever even knew me as Andy Colvin. But I'm now Clooney the Elder, and I'm poised to either take over this Church of Subgenius Facebook group or create another one, because apparently Stang and the old timers are bowing out. They're all getting up there in years. We're all getting up there in years. So
yeah.
But I love the fact that I was a part of it. I think it's just a great idea. Their videos are hilarious. The ads that were done by a guy named Nevada Pease, Peas, Pease. The guy is unbelievable. If you go to Arise Subgenius on YouTube, just put in Arise Subgenius and watch that thing, you'll see this guy come on, and he's got a perfect dramatic documentary speaking voice, and he tells you the whole story about Bob and how Bob meets the aliens, and Bob has an alien connection, right? The UFOs and everything are in there. The grifting is in there, open grifting, right? Send us $1 and we'll give you the answer, that kind of stuff. I just got here. They're right here, I think. Let me see. Let me show you these. I've got some old things from the 80s. Oh, this is going to move around. Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah. I actually came up with a couple of these from the show. It was called the Jim Tabasco Hour. It was like a variety show. But again, you only had 1 minute, so it would just be a piece of the show. So, let me see if I can get this.
Yeah, we can see it. Nice.
Or relatives Einstein thought.
Those are nice.
This one is mine. This is my favorite saying of all time.
I don't practice what I preach because I'm not the kind of person I'm preaching to. Yep.
I think that one's gotten around. I don't like that one. Ooh. This sort of this sort of predates Trump.
Well, yeah, there you go.
And just about anybody that wants to steal your pension fund or whatever. And of course, our ads really did often put this point across.
Yeah.
You can buy your way into heaven. That's a new idea. Yeah, you know, these are actual stickers. So Subgenius was completely 100% posters. That's all it was. It was posters. Send us your money. Here's another classic. Oh my God, this is great. It's very applicable to today. All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Funny how things don't change all that much.
We created the Nazi hell creatures. Have you ever heard of those?
I've heard of them.
Oh,
This is
What
this
is that?
was taken from Richard Shaver.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
They're coming for you. They're coming across a whole south of the border, right? Coming up out from the hollow earth.
Yeah.
And then this one, pretty good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Mimicry.
that's paranormal research right there.
It's definitely
It's nothing but creative stuff now. They're just making it all up, but they're not really even doing a good job. Like it sounds. I have seen this. I stopped watching maybe this after the second season of Skinwalker. I thought it was cool the way they filmed the thing up in the sky, and that looked like a real UFO to me. Right? I've seen a real UFO, the unexplainable kind. They're energy balls. I don't think they're cosmic and interplanetary or anything, but I think they can affect your mind and make you, trip out for a while because it blows your mind. It can blow your mind, and there may be energies and frequencies coming off of it that'll affect your mind. Just like ants can secrete a chemical that gets in the air and tells the predator not to eat them, or fungi to put out a smell, or a spore or something that eats into the brain of the insect and tells it to
zombie thing.
fungi only from now on. So the squonk is a fungi. It's a fungus human hybrid. Okay, if you take a Nazi hell creature that was living, say, in Kentucky before the Ice Age, the story is that they were living, that the underground people in Kentucky got separated from the underground people in Ohio because of the glacier flooding after the Great Flood. And they became degenerate, the Kentucky, and they moved to Alaska because they got run out, right? They were becoming too degenerate. So they go up to Alaska and set up there. And this started a pipeline of sorts between Ohio and Alaska for squonk tears. The secretions of the squonk, of this fungi hybrid thing, cause hallucinations and stuff. So because of that, people like Major Downing, the original one, were trying to get a hold of this stuff and the tears. And this is Edidorfa. The story behind Hellier is that you go into the caverns and you find this stuff, this chemical compound in nature. And the guy who wrote Edidorfa was a botanist who created it synthetically there in Cincinnati. So, and you can go to the museum there and look at it, look it up. So, I think that part's, I don't know about the fungi human hybrid, but that's the story, right? Could that happen? Because fungi are not plants or animals. They're their special category, unspecial category. And mostly they kill things and eat them. So, but you can harness the fungi if you can control the fungi and learn its secrets, it's got all of the healing properties for anything on Earth, probably. There's more healing power in fungi than anywhere else, but there's also more death. Like candida, or so, you get a candida infection, you don't treat it, over time it could fuck a bunch of shit up and you wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
Diabetes, your legs swell, I if you've ever been there, hard to get rid of. They're always there waiting for their shot, right? The fungi, right? Waiting. They want to knock you down like a tree and sit on you and eat your bark off. So what's the point of this little digression?
The fungi.
The
I
fungi.
know.
No, I said this to my wife, and she goes, "You're a fun guy. Fungis are better than serious guys."
Oh God. Well, we started out before the show talking about fungi, about mushrooms for gout.
Mushrooms for gout. Yes, you can take
Yes.
mushrooms for gout and for diabetes. And what else was there?
Oh, I don't remember.
A lot of different stuff.
High blood pressure? Was that the other
High
one?
blood pressure is a chrysanthemum herb mix. Will work on that. I love the herbal medicine. I was saying before that I like to go to Asian doctors and get their concoctions, and then I look at the ingredients and I buy the ingredients myself, because then you don't have to get a prescription on it. And it works. It does work. I've just always loved herbs and plants, and I'm trying to get back to that as I get older, because animals, plants, rocks, I love all that stuff. And I've been finding all kinds of salamanders at the farm that I recently bought, stuff like that. Eagles, owls, snakes.
I mean, they're just all more interesting than people, actually.
Yeah, people are just a problem all the time.
Humans are. I prefer the company of animals to people, almost always.
I think there are some people that need other people. I guess they're still learning from other people. But at some point, maybe it's through past lives or something, or just in one life, you kind of, what you want to do, And oftentimes others just slow down the process, as I said earlier. So you're going to get your social interaction, anyway, here and there. So. And so, Jeffrey, do you get out much there? Do you go into downtown Mariana and party?
We go some places, but lately we've been walking a lot more, and I'm trying to walk more, but that can mess the gout up more from reading. You got to be careful. But yeah, I know one thing I was thinking about with the congressional, the smorgasbord with the UFO thing in the media. You got the congressional hearings, which seem weird and just out of place, and all these stories about crash retrievals. And of course, that's all over the radio circuits, and everybody's talking about it, blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, you've had the Pentagon release these UFO videos and say something weird, the famous videos that have been on the news and all that crap. And then now they're saying that none of that exists. The Pentagon just made a statement saying there's no UFO or alien life. So you just have all this crap going on from different situations and sectors. It's just like pure confusion if you're really trying to keep up with it, which I'm not. I'm just finding it amusing mostly. But it's just insane in a lot of levels. Basically, the left hand saying one thing and the right hand saying another, which is basically the way it goes anyway, right? So
yeah, it's a promotion of chaos. Chaos. I had something about chaos here. Chaos masks control. So if the ex-Nazis are now billionaires and have invested their Nazi flight capital well, Elon Musk's former partner is definitely Peter Thiel. He's definitely, in that fascist direction for sure. Maybe even directly, neo-Nazi. What's the point there? What was it you were?
I was just talking about the UFO congressional hearings, and then one hand saying one thing
Oh,
and
it's
one
the
saying
chaos. Yeah, the chaos master control. So the Nazis' plan has always been to cause chaos, and they've been behind most of the terrorism all these years, if this theory is correct. And use it to make money on the stock market, for one thing, right? All the put options before 9/11. Okay, so why did Mothman throw 9/11 into this, right? So he's talking about MLK, RFK, JFK, even. What's 911 doing in there back in 67? There's got to be some connection between, and there is, the same teams, I guess you could say, Mabus calls them, from JFK continued on. They were never prosecuted. A lot of the Nazis were never prosecuted. Joseph McCarthy was run up the ladder by that paper mill that prints the New York Times.
Yeah.
Kimberly Clark, they made Kleenex, Kotex, and all that. Nazi flight capital formed that company. And then they promoted Joseph McCarthy, who the minute he got on a Senate committee to prosecute the Nazis, turned it all around and none of them got prosecuted. And then McCarthy leads us to Nixon, and Nixon to Reagan, Reagan to Bush, Bush to Trump. Trump's an absolute was directly mentored by some of those guys, like Roy Cohn, mobster, lawyer, CIA guy, fascist, racist, everything. These guys are not kidding around. And I just don't think people, Trump lost last time. He might lose again. They're going to pull everything in the book.
Well, the thing is that
to get him back in there.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that even if he does lose, in a way, it doesn't entirely matter. You know what I mean? Because they've got their foothold in so many different places. They could use a Biden victory as a way of fracturing things even more. So.
And nobody really wants to think, is this the CIA doing this? But you know what? Obama probably was CIA. His mom was. We know that. And so they probably knew that putting a black guy in office would cause this reaction, that bring out that old racism again, that really is so embedded. It never really got kicked out. Never really got in the South. It never got eradicated. They enforced a few federal laws, but now the states are trying to change this back again. So, oh boy, I don't know. I hope. Mothman's trying to tell us something here. Is anybody going to listen?
And at a particular place I have to inhabit as a job, it has paranormal and things like that I post, but there's also politics there that's right leaning, very extreme right, and it seems to tie into nationalism. And I've noticed it's always been there, but I've noticed it amp up the anti-Jewish rhetoric. I even have some nut that claims he's a Marine coming there and saying I'm an Israeli agent. And the only views I know is like Adam Sandler and Larry David. I've never been on a plane. I mean, that's, and this guy's scary. This guy's scary. Like, really? Like, is this guy going to show up at my house? Died, Jewish agent.
The majors put out a bad word on you, so you can't. I mean, until the majors house of cards falls, which I think it might.
And I've seen some real disturbing headlines lately that were really crazy. One of them was, and I went to verify to make sure it actually happened. There's like 20 Chinese jet fighters in the Taiwan border, and they were like, Taiwan was pretty much getting ready for, all assault. And then another one I saw was saying that Putin shut down 1,600 GPS airplanes in Europe in the skies at once. And it seemed like it was legit sources. It was like real, from the Microsoft page. And basically he's messing around with GPSs of airliners with Russian tech or whatever. There was a whole article about him doing it. And it's just crazy, weird ass articles you see are things that are terrifying.
Terror. Old Mae Russell, man, she's like this thing, same players. If you look at all the papers, you can see, you know, they loved going at that time. The CIA really wanted some Caribbean islands to run drugs from. So that was what they were doing. They were trying stuff in all these, so Grenada, Dominica, Cuba, you know, Mexico was really the source place for most, it still is. So because Kissinger was running, you know, they that's the best way to make cash is drugs, guns, prostitution, I don't know, human trafficking. So they were doing all those things, you know, using particular people like Ollie North, remember old Ollie North, those kind of guys.
Yeah.
They're military guys and they just do what they're told. And it's big money. Ollie North is a rich man now. Running that stuff back and forth and supposedly backing rap. The CIA was funding, like they funded artists in the 50s and 60s and 70s. They started funding the rappers so that they could supposedly get more black people into the private prisons they had just created and make money off of that. So you bring in guns, drugs, and present images of gangster activity and glorify them in the videos, and then you get more clients for your private prisons.
And one of the big things that they're hyping up right now, and I'm seeing it in the conspiracy and the right-wing thing and the QAnon crap, is that April 8th eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And they're calling it the kill shots coming, and like maps of his path with the X. All these preachers are going nuts saying it's the seal. What else? I mean, it's just absolute crazy. The QAnon crap released like a eclipse prepared kit. Don't be in cities. Like, it's definitely a creepy whatever the hell. I mean, I've seen these things over the years and nothing usually happens, but this one definitely seems creepier, a lot creepier on a lot of levels. But, you know, I don't know if it's going to tie into a Russian nuke or something happening, but I doubt it. Probably nothing will happen, but they are definitely buzzing it up to a psychic level.
You know, I did that calendar for many years, things in the news, and there's always stuff in mid-March, and there's always something around April 8th.
April, yeah.
It's going to be something. They'll do something. They'll be, and you always got to think about what is it they're trying to divert you from. And one of the best techniques is if something damaging comes out to this new fascist secret regime, they get it. They cover it up with another story. They come out with. So that's why I'm wondering which story last week was the one that they were trying to cover up with all this crazy stuff going on at the same time. It was a synthetic synchronicity, for sure, to get those things together in the same spot. If any of them were planned, then they could be planned to happen together, like when Martin Luther King's family said they thought the government did it, then Heaven's Gate happened the same day, so they covered up the whole thing about the Martin Luther King family. It's any kind of little diversionary trick.
Yeah, they're definitely eyeballing that. That's it, Nate.
A Mothman sighting actually led me to figure out who was doing this government manipulation on Facebook and social media, because there was a Mothman sighting in this place in Ohio. I forget what year it was, maybe 2007 or 8 or something. So I went up there to check it out, and while I'm there, I just happened to run across this strange apartment building with all these antennae saying Army Airborne something, 26 maybe. I looked it up, and they're the ones who are doing the social media stuff on the web, and it's distraction material. That they admitted in the beginning that their interest in the internet their social media was for distraction purposes. That's all they would say. So you can just assume that everything that's going on, or a lot of it, is just for that purpose, to keep young people with imaginations, smart kids that maybe got out of college and they're kind of lost a little bit, and get them, and they're going in the wrong direction when they look into something like the paranormal or UFOs, or because these are things that people do use to find themselves. They try to find something mystical or magical and go in there and see what happens, because they know they've got some leanings that way. Maybe they're a little psychic or something, and they can sense there's some answers there. So people like the Major want to make sure that you confuse those people, send them in the wrong direction, and then you've done your job, I guess. It's just about placing doubt. It's about helping people, getting their secret information, right? So what everybody's doing, and then weeding out the people you don't want through various means, and then you've got a nice homogenous group of followers who will do whatever you say. And if we do come up against fascism, I guarantee you those cryptozoology guys will all be on board with it and trying to tell you to get on board with it. Don't rock the boat.
It mostly seems like it's already happening. A lot of them are just too dumb to even realize. It's already like nationalism, Putin, all that. That's what it is anyway, right? I mean, pretty much. Yeah. It's happening, and they're just too dumb to realize it's happening.
Well, they're being used. They don't even know it. Everybody's being milked for information with the goal of stopping the best and brightest from really getting anywhere.
And the biggest thing, I guess, with the Democratic Party and everything is what was I saw the Bill Maher Robert De Niro interview. That was really good. That was a good one if you haven't had a chance to see it. That was definitely De Niro going off on Trumpelgooch. So that was a good watch. Yeah. But it's basically happening right under our noses, but a lot of people know it and a lot don't, and they don't care. And I've seen the Jewish rhetoric go up to levels of insanity, and it's just happening.
Yeah, that is so. Oh my God, it's bots. It's like bots and bots and bots. I wanted to say though that this thing that I heard from John Le Carre, the spy writer, really fascinating guy. He grew up with a similar upbringing to mine, except his dad was a grifter and my dad wasn't. My dad was a great man. I mean, it just like never missed a day's work, knew everything about anything, never was gentle while also being, a World War II veteran and really tough man, toughest man I ever knew. But his methods were so good, and I just what was the original question? Yeah.
Oh, we were just talking about it really happening, and I know you sent me some of that dude's books, and we're basically just talking about fascism and nationalism and how it's all happening, and people are misguided, chaos.
Yeah, but, the difference. Well, I wanted to talk about him a little bit. Was I talking about the CIA guy?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the idea that the agency knows this, right? What Le Carre said, he got it from spy. He was a spy before he was a writer. So the idea is that the truth is really subjective. All of us like to think that the truth is objective. I get it. That's what drives us. We're like, this is fucking wrong, and we got to fix it, right? We're sure it's wrong, and we're sure we know this or that truth. And yes, yeah, there are things that we can't agree on, but most of the stuff that goes on is subjective truth, where you have to come to your, two people see the UFO, but only one of them says it's square and one says it's round. I mean, it's you can get to the truth, but you have to go through the subjective means to get there. That's what's reverse about it. That's what's it's that reversal thing that's important.
What
am I? Huh?
You're good. What is squonk? We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay, we did. Well, did I? Oh, here's the last point about that is, so this comes up in politics. Somebody says, well, Trump factually did this, not that. And the other people are coming up with their own subjective truth that he didn't do that. And if you try to say, well, the truth exists, it's a third party, it's in there in the middle, right? Okay, LeCaire says, what is that? Who is that person? Who's that third party that's going to judge which truth is right? And it doesn't exist outside of a courtroom. But other than that, there's no one there. It's a phantom. The third party objective observer is a phantom. And this is exploited by the spooks. They're totally confident in the fact that they don't have to tell the truth because it could be right. It could be the right one. There's no way to know. So it sort of absolves them of responsibility. It's tough being a spy because you wouldn't want to lie. I mean, anyway, ask your next question and we'll see.
I went to that Bustamante site. He has like a whole thing you can sign up to be learn how to be a spy. It looked pretty cool, but you have to pay for it. It was like a whole spy.
Well, that's his whole thing. This is how he's making money now, using the CIA techniques.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was on Skinwalker really makes me wonder now. What the hell?
Yeah, that's a trip. Yeah, he's on there. He's on there with Colonel John Alexander and that.
Colonel John. I'm friends with Facebook friends with old Colonel. The Colonel is better than the Major in my mind. The Colonel is actually a liberal, if you can believe that. Alexander seems to be a liberal.
That's good. I didn't know. It's on
there are
Facebook.
some smart. I don't want to say smart. There are some left-leaning people in the intelligence world. That's for sure, and I'm glad there are.
Yeah. It's weird because that Colonel John Alexander on that Chris Bledsoe UFO God book has like a weird quote on it, like you can be one too, sort of kind of thing. And then when you go to the reviews on Amazon, there's always people under it saying they're summoning UFOs now. It's pretty creepy, like a John Carpenter movie.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying I think you can call UFOs. I could probably do it if I really wanted to. Yeah. I could douse for water. There's all kinds of psychic things that you can do if you just believe you can do it and try it.
Well, I know that day that you had all those snakes on your property, Christina saw it, and right as she was reading it, we had a snake come in the house through a weird dryer vent. That same time. And my mom was screaming, and I was like, I don't even know it. Hopefully left. We never saw it again, but definitely some serpent energy going on there for a minute that leaped from your experience to the one over here that I've never had a snake in a house before in my life. It was weird. Little serpent energy. I try to stay positive with that. They say it's immortality, healing, and shedding your skin until you get one to bite you, of course. But what were we saying Squonk was? Did we mention that yet? Squonk?
The Squonk is the hybrid human creature, a blend of the degenerate Moon Eyes. The Moon Eyes lived in Appalachia. They were white people, Vikings or something, and they knew how to do metalworking, and they built the rock formations and the rock buildings. It wasn't the Native Americans. It's probably these Viking types from Europe, large white men, possibly with some of the what's Marjorie Taylor Greene got? She looks like a Neanderthal. That Neanderthal thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
waves of immigrants from the north and south, black people, Vikings coming over all those before Columbus and intermingling with the indigenous population. So the Squonk, the degenerate Moon Eyes.
Is that the dyed skin people like blue skin or something?
Because they had to retreat to the caves to escape the flooding, and some of them died, and they were cut off from the others. They became degenerate and then sought out other ways to sort of get even So I guess the theory is when they went to Alaska, there's a lot of really powerful fungi up there, and maybe that was how the hybrid thing came together. I don't know, but there is a book or two. There's a Squonk book. Gray Barker talks. There's a lot of history to this moon eye stuff. It's a real thing. There's places you can go in North Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia has a lot of them, old earthworks and things that were built by this, and they have official signs there saying this. The moon eyes, dot 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 dot. There's pictures of the signs. It's this crazy thing that Keel talked about it, but I don't think anyone's really looked into it, and I don't think you would know that much about it unless you went to these sites where they have. Okay, supposedly King Arthur had a son named Modoc or Madoc who came up the Mississippi and built 2 or 3 things that are very similar to what he had in Wales. So he had these castles in Wales, and he reproduced one of them, I think, in North Carolina, and then one in Tennessee. You can go there and look at it.
And you said King Arthur, and
King Arthur's son, Madoc, right? It's like the King Arthur legend.
I know. I'll have to look that up, or send me stuff on that too. I haven't heard about that,
And
but I definitely
was,
love that kind of
well,
stuff.
he was albino. He was supposedly albino. So any of his project, supposedly there were some albinos in the group or something.
Interesting.
So they were called the moon eyes because they can't see during the day, or the sunlight bothers them. So they would come out at night, and of course they had large pupils from being in the caves all the time.
And
really structures there that they supposedly built.
that's interesting. I'll have to look that up. I know in the Excalibur movie with John Boorman, they call his son Mordred, and that's always a kind of. I love that movie. I could watch that movie 5 million times. That Excalibur movie.
The Native Americans ran them out, so
Interesting.
that's where you get the stories of the Native Americans driving out the giants, I think, because these were large people.
Yeah. And we've had Eric Grimsrud on, who says that Trump is maybe the Antichrist, and has broke it down with Drumpf, and has these creepy charts that it'll give you goosebumps. And supposedly, in the Mabus quatrain, the comet will run, and he's eyeballing this devil comet that's supposed to go through during the eclipse, and thinks he's going to croak. And that is a Simpsons prophecy. There is a croaking Trumpelgooch in the Simpsons. I haven't seen the episode, seen little clips of it.
Valiant Thor was the first to say that Trump was the Antichrist.
Really?
Long time ago.
Wow. There's something, I think there's something to it. And he's definitely Napoleonic. And I think John Hogue said something like, Napoleon was the tumor, Hitler the cancer, and Mabus is the remission. So a lot of these religious fanatics and stuff, maybe setting that up, the coming and all that, their Armageddon fantasy. This guy named Benjamin Fulford, that definitely seems like a big right-wing spook, is
totally. He's been around forever.
Yeah, Khazarian Mafia, and they're about to do an artificial Armageddon and all this stuff. Yeah, he's definitely a big time. That's why I have to see these people before it's news, and it's, oh my gosh, I need a cleanse.
I had a thought there, but I lost it. What was where did you start with that? Maybe I can remember.
Squonk and I don't know. We were talking about Squonk, and then it got into Eric and Trump and Mabus and all that stuff. The quatrain Mabus.
Quatrain. It had really something to do with that.
We're talking about King Arthur. I don't know. We're a mess. I got another question if you can't think of it.
Was there a question? That was a question.
We were just on a tangent, probably mostly, but no. I know one thing I want to ask you. It's kind of silly. When we get into Bigfoot, we always talk about their tribal patterns and how they live and reproduce. Some people think they're physical, some people think they're paranormal, some don't know or think they're both. I'm just kind of curious to a stoner kind of question about the life of Mothman. Do you think it's just a physical entity? Do you think it's like they bang and have little Mothman kids in a civilization? Like, let's go Rick and Morty with it. What do you think of Mothman as far as
Well,
like?
the Garuda is supposed to arise fully grown from an egg, a celestial egg.
Huh.
So I don't know. I don't think so. Um,
It's more like a celestial creature.
Bigfoot, as I said, I think Bigfoot was created to cover up Mothman because it came out right after that and totally blew Mothman off the chart because Mothman is too dangerous. There could be a whole religion around Mothman, and in fact, there already are a couple of small ones for LGBTQ people in Ashland, Kentucky, like a Mothman church that welcomes trans people and all that stuff. Which, yeah, good idea. Why not? I think that though, if people started worshiping the Garuda here, they do worship him in Asia. He's the biggest deity there is. He's above the Buddha. There's more Buddhists than anything else, right? I think. So, what was my point?
Garuda and just the secret life of Mothman. Like, my Mothman Secrets Revealed. The title of the show.
Well,
Secret.
Okay,
Mothman.
so Bigfoot was to cover that up. But what's always confused me personally is before the Mothman, well, no, it was after. Sometime in my teenage years, I had a series of dreams about Bigfoot that went on for years. And when it started, I don't know when I was probably, I don't know, early teens, thinking there was a Bigfoot outside the window is probably sleep paralysis, where I thought this thing was out there telepathing to me, and it was a hairy Bigfoot creature, but no one knew about Bigfoot. I don't think. I was probably younger than that, but it wasn't. Nobody was talking about Bigfoot. There was the Boggy Creek thing. That was about it. Right? I guess they did have a convention in '67 where they had the Bigfoot film. The Patterson film was shown, but how many people really knew about that? If you were a younger person, I didn't know. I didn't hear about that. But anyway, this confused me because it made me think Bigfoot was real. And eventually, in the dream, there was a family of Bigfoots. I dreamt about them all the time. They carried globes of lights. They were always coming around the house, and over time, I became more afraid of them, I think, and because the dreams were very scary. And eventually, over maybe a period of 10, 20 years, the Bigfoot turned into a dog in my dream, and that was and I never dreamt about it again. I then went and talked to my sister about this, and she said, I've had the same dream all along, too. And other weird dreams that we share of things that happen in the house or outside the house that are totally paranormal and really far out. She's had the same dreams. What is going on there? I think stuff can happen in that psychic space. Maybe it's not a physical thing, but your brain creates images for it. So
And what about? I have a copy of the picture that got taken. What can you tell us about that?
The fact that I had those dreams may not mean that Bigfoot is real. Like a lot of other things that come to me, it's an insight into the conspiracy, right? You have to interpret you have to find your own subjective truth. What is this telling me? Is it telling me what I think it is? Bigfoot's real? No, it might be telling me Bigfoot is fake. So that's where I'm at right now. I think it's a creation of the spooks that created cryptozoology to keep everybody occupied with nothing. There's nothing going on there. Bigfoot is completely apolitical, does nothing but lope through the forest or throw sticks at you. Come on, man. It's really something to me that has become the thing. It just blows my mind. It's perfect for it. It's very vague. The wild man represents something in us, so everybody kind of connects to it. And they use the Bigfoot stories all the time and stick them in certain places to go along with stories about black people I've noticed that. Like they're trying to, I don't know, dehumanize minorities, I think, in these weird ways. So,
Yeah.
so maybe that's why people are becoming more and more racist. They're picking up this stuff subliminally in the way that things are presented. It has to be, right? What else could it be? Is it just because you saw Joe at the grocery store and he said, "Yeah, let's go kill some black people"? You know, that's not happening. It's coming through the media.
It's definitely on scarier levels for sure. I know I have a copy, I guess, of the Polaroid where the thing's in the window. What was that story? Who took that picture exactly? And do you consider that Mothman in the window? Right? It's definitely weird.
The old picture, man. That thing has gone so flat. I was never able to get anybody to see what's in the stupid window, and I'm not really good enough with Photoshop to draw a line around it.
I see it. I can see it. I can definitely see there's something weird there. It kind of looks like a big fly bug or something. That's weird.
Exactly
like big.
it looks exactly like a Garuda mask from Southeast Asia, not Tibet.
Yeah.
They're all different, right? The ones from New Guinea look just like that. It's exact. Everything, but it's kind of fuzzy. And I just think a lot of people just think it's a joke from the beginning because every other photograph that's ever come out is fake, right? So mine must be fake too. I can understand it.
Well, it definitely, I mean, it looks like something interesting to me from what I've seen
The
of it.
story is I saw that same week probably this thing that came out of a tree. There it was. Thing came out of a tree. Remember I said when that falls, the thing came out of the tree. I interpreted it wrongly for a long time. I thought it was Mothman. I don't think it was. I think it's this demon thing that's there. And the same week, around the same time, the guy who lived there, it grabbed him by the shoulder and it was invisible. I saw it as a black silhouette with like a satanic back-bending insect thing that was clearly not totally physical, right? It was weird. I can't even explain it. How you know it's not really there, but you're terrified you're running. It grabbed him. He comes to my house, doesn't tell me about this until later. And while he's there, my sister takes this picture of me with the upside down 7-Up glass. So you've got 3 Mothman witnesses in the room together. One takes a picture of the other, and there's the thing in the window, which we didn't know about until my 2-year-old, who's 2 years old, literally said Garuda and pointed at the thing in the window. Other people were there when it happened. My mother-in-law, my wife at the time, somebody else was there. That actually happened. The 2-year-old sees the Garuda in the picture. How does he even know what that word is? So, and of course, before that, but there was some weird stuff about his birth that I had a very vivid dream that he had been a monk. And I was dreaming about this monk and I felt a force come into me. And I jerked out of bed, woke up, told my wife then, well, I think the next morning was when she realized she was pregnant. I think the test showed pregnant. She delivered the next day or went into the hospital the next day. And so I've always thought he's special. Maybe he's a reincarnated monk, as these other monks have told me are happening. And China, I think, did we ever talk about China passing a law about this? They really believe in reincarnation and they don't want these lamas reincarnating, and they passed a law against it. And they come after you. If you get reincarnated in another country, who comes after you? Dark, Oriental, short men in black. That's Chinese agents going after kids in my neighborhood who may have been reincarnated Tibetan lamas. fleeing, because when I was born was when all the monks got murdered in Tibet. If you look it up,
Yeah, yeah.
it's unbelievable. I'm not trying. There's guys that go to what's it called, Contact in the Desert, and they call himself Chief John. It's a white guy. He's just calling himself an Indian chief. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not calling myself a Tibetan guru. Because I'm not. But I've hung out with a lot of them, right? And I've absorbed, and there's an energy exchange, and there's telepathy occurring. It really is. Have you experienced telepathy, you guys? Either one? Yeah. It just doesn't.
I mean, that's the big reason why I do the spiritual practices that I do, because it was within those contexts that I first experienced that. I mean, really experienced that, and in a positive way. And it was like, oh, this is real. This is real.
Totally. Happens all the time in my family. All of us have it. It's fun. In our older age, 4 siblings, we all had the Mothman experiences, and it's really cool. Everybody's changed and got more themselves. Like, people are becoming fulfilled to some degree, I think. Even those of us who had real problems. In my family, there's people with substance abuse, and stuff, and still, and I've tried to do what I can do. It's getting better. There's all it takes is one bad egg, really. I don't know about your family, but you get one person who's just causing trouble. I guess that's the best word. Did you see the video that I posted from Robert Greene, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power?
I didn't know.
That is a fascinating guy. He's sort of laying out what the rules are of life for real, not in our fantasies. Like, what are the sociological rules? Like Irving Goffman, I don't know. Did you ever read him, Wham? Great
No.
sociologist. This presentation of self in everyday life. The rules of social engagement people have been trying to figure these out since the 1800s, at least. The Industrial Revolution really changed society. And so the sociologists have been trying to track those changes, one of which is more narcissism now, right? But it's a fascinating topic, because we're all operating on a lot of implied assumptions.
Right.
For instance, you get a job. Typically, you'll go in, and if you go in with the wrong attitude, like you think, okay, well, they really need to show me everything that needs to be done, right? That's not how it works in real life. In real life, you're given a little snapshot of the thing, right? And you're left to figure a lot of it out on your own. And if you can't do that, you're going to get fired time and time again. You've got to fake your way through if you don't know, right? You can't seem completely incompetent. So you learn to act a little bit, right? And we become actors in our lives. There's times when we really have to play roles. And if you know what those are, and if you can tell when other people are playing a role and other people are lying to you, especially in the paranormal world, it helps. You need defense. People who are empathetic, highly psychic, are kind of at a disadvantage when it comes to dealing with snake oil salesmen. And people would stab you in the back because they're envious.
Oh, yeah, they'll just use you.
You need defense mechanisms. And this guy, Robert Greene, has several books about this and several really interesting videos along the lines of Bustamante's, where he actually talks about Bustamante's stuff, because there's a lot of similarity in how the CIA realistically sees how people really are, just as Greene does when he writes his books about how you can use those techniques to protect yourself And so you can do productive things instead of getting caught up in stupid arguments, stupid people that are designed to just keep you from completing the task that you want to, from finding yourself and fulfilling yourself. And you have to.
Wow. I saved that
This
title
is
earlier.
great stuff.
I saved Green's title earlier when we were talking about it and sent myself an email with that title. But we're down to like 2 minutes. It's been a great show. I know, right? It's been a great show.
Page.
We
Let me
can
scan it real quick. Oh man, I got to wrap it up now.
Well, there you go.
We got 2 minutes.
Well, okay, I did my DNA, and I never have read it, but I looked at it the other day and it said that on my dad's side, the patrilineal line goes back to the steppes of Mongolia or somewhere like that, where we were warlords I'm sorry, goat herders and stuff who like rode horses, and we were really this line of descent moved to Europe when things got bad on the steppes, and they impregnated most of the women in the British Isles and Scandinavia.
Yep.
This crazy story of these men who had, instead of becoming domesticated, they had continued, out there living off the land with the horses and stuff. And when they got over to Europe, the women loved it. That's literally, I could show it to you if I could get, we could do the thingies where you show the images, but what was the point of that? The warrior aspect, maybe. We all have to be warriors. Tap into that. Stand your ground. Be in control. It's an inward journey. Block out the noise. Find what you want to do and how you can fulfill yourself and go for that. Just don't let people talk you out of it. You can get a lot further just going on your own intuition about things like books. I make intuitive decisions about books that we publish all the time. I'm just going purely on what I like. And that's literally the best thing you could do. If you're doing an interview show, ask the questions you want to ask. Don't ask what you think people want you to ask. Go with your thing. Be you.
Definitely. Thank you, and a great show. And you're welcome back anytime. And you just let me know when you're ready to fire, and we'll get you back on. It's always a pleasure. And everybody, you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Is there any kind of where can they find you, Andy, on Facebook? I mean,
if you want to be found.
Amazon.
The Major destroyed my website in 2006, and I've refused to put another one up until he puts mine back up.
Go to Amazon and Andrew Colvin and Mothman Photographer and go on a journey. That's all I can say. Facebook. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Yep, Facebook as well, Mothy Talk. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.